लोग को लगता है कि एक बहुत डाउन मार्केट इंडस्ट्री है. कौन why to get into this? कुछ नहीं है, कुछ खास नहीं है. Everything is so scripted.
Vishal Bhargava, the real estate journalist, extraordinary.
You've had the land mafia, the gangsters, political involvement in real estate. How do you as a journalist report certain things knowing that this involvement is there within a certain project or in a certain case?
You have to be very, very cautious that whatever you say can be backed up.
Have you ever got a threat because you probably reported something you shouldn't have reported?
If you're a real estate reporter and you don't get threats, that means you aren't a real estate reporter. I've got threats of defamation, but not defamation. In the maximum case, the 100 crore defamation case.
Would you buy or would you rent?
I would rent. I like to explore locations. Mumbai's housing market is anti-middle class. Anti-middle class.
260 square foot, 1 BH. It's lesser than an SRA flat.
In 1985, government incentivized removal of slums by saying, boss, you buy a home, we'll help you with 10% of the amount. 10%. 10%. By 1995, this 10% discount or subsidy that government was offering became 100%. We will give you a free flat.
Correct.
Which is why after that policy, the number of slums have increased, not decreased.
How do you select your builder?
Everybody invites you to the sales office. Every builder, when he is selling a project, will say, sir, sales office aa jao, sales office aa jao. That's what they want to show you. For me, it's very clear. See the sales office. More important than that, go and see his office.
Why do people hate builders?
You are treated like a king as a prospective buyer. You are treated like a loser once you're a buyer.
Correct. Hi guys, I'm super excited for this episode on our show because this time our guest is extremely special. He is a journalist at Money Control, and let me tell you, journalists are a rare commodity in real estate. I'd like to present to you guys Vishal Bhargava. Hi guys, I'm super excited for this episode on our show because this time our guest is extremely special. He is a journalist at Money Control, and let me tell you, journalists are a rare commodity in real estate. We have finally managed to grab him, and you know what? I love the way how he intertwines history with real estate. I'd like to present to you guys Vishal Bhargava. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence, and we know how busy your schedule is.
Thank you, Mayank. Glad to be here and at your platform, and looking forward to this podcast.
Thank you so much, and we got you a little something from our side.
Okay.
Right. This is, as you know, we love greenery. Right. We love trees. This is something from our. This is like a part of our green initiative.
Okay, lovely.
So plant because flowers tend to die. Bouquets. So
okay, lovely. Yeah. I'll definitely keep this with me now.
And something here as well.
Okay, you've actually identified my weak point. Okay.
Sweets.
Bombay Sweet Shop, one of my favorites. Chalo, thank
awesome.
you.
I'm glad our intel is working. You know, we've been spying on you.
This is one of my favorites, so
awesome.
I'll definitely consume this once I leave from here.
So glad, yeah, you could make it, honestly.
Yeah.
So, you know, Vishal bhai, you're one of the few kind of rare, you know, it's like a spotting a white tiger, right, in real estate. You're one of the very rare reporters in real estate, you know, a rare journalist in real estate. Why does real estate, firstly, before I start that, how did you get into journalism and journalism in real estate?
So I actually got into real estate journalism by accident. My idea was to do something else. I was running one other business on the side where we were doing a deal with Network 18. And in between conversation, I told them, you know, that I think you can improve on real estate coverage by doing ABC. So then the editor just threw the question back, why don't you do it with us? I had some experience in journalism before, 10 years, 12 years back, but that was not in real estate.
Correct.
I was tracking automobiles then. And when he threw that option at me, I thought, let me try it. There's no downside as such. I always liked real estate. And in the first few weeks only of the content that I started doing, it took off. And it took off very sharply. So what started off like a passion and hobby then became a profession.
Correct.
Okay. Now why it took off, I think it comes to the second part that you said, you know, why are there such few real estate reporters? See, the problem with real estate is ना Mayank कि लोग को लगता है कि एक बहुत डाउन मार्केट इंडस्ट्री है. कौन why to get into this? कुछ नहीं है, कुछ खास नहीं है. Barring being such a relevant industry, is there really any meat in it? Do you really get to know anything? So people ignore it. Most times people either reject real estate or they say I will track real estate but that will be my secondary sector. मैं और कुछ track करूँगा पर real estate मेरा दूसरा वाला है. Because of which real estate doesn't get the attention. One learning which every real estate journalist will tell you, Mayank, is that everything is so scripted. It's like real estate promoters are like, foreign diplomats. Camera शुरू हुआ ना एक ही speech देना है.
Correct.
Industry is growing at 12%, demand is very healthy. So after a while, a reporter also feels क्या कर रहा हूँ मैं?
Correct.
So people, even if they get in, they get out faster. I'm one of the few people who stayed on because I really like buildings.
Correct.
More than the promoters or brokers or land, which is your forte, I like buildings.
Correct.
So I've stuck on with it and I enjoy it, the fascinating part of it.
You said something very interesting right now, how everything is scripted, right? In journalism, at least when it comes to real estate. So how should a journalist report in real estate, and what is the best and the worst thing about being a journalist in real estate?
The toughest thing in real estate is that how do you read between the lines? Okay. सब प्रमोटर एक ही डायलॉग बोलेंगे, ठीक है? मैंने आज तक प्रमोटर का कोई दूसरा स्क्रिप्ट सुना ही नहीं है, ठीक है? Even at peak COVID, अगर if you go and look at the interviews that happened from March 2020 till June 2020, lockdown है, but the builder is saying things are going steady, we are very optimistic about the future. So even at that type of situation, the narrative remains the same, completely detached from reality. So the skill of the reporter is how do you read between the lines? Because the line, the builder has clearly marked it. Okay. What is the truth within it? That is the toughest part of being a journalist.
Correct.
The best part about it is that you talk to so many different stakeholders. There's so many stories that come in. Be it in terms of land, somebody buying an apartment, the broker's involvement, the buildings, how they are made. So the best part is that it's a very fascinating sector, but you have to go really deep into it.
Correct.
If you don't go deep into it now, you in a way become a script writer for the builder.
Like a puppet.
You're like a puppet. Builder is saying this, tu bas wahi report kar. That skill is between the lines. How much can you read? How do you read it?
Correct. So real estate obviously has been super notorious over the last so many decades, right? You've had the land mafia, the gangsters, political involvement in real estate. How do you as a journalist report certain things knowing that this involvement is there within a certain project or in a certain case?
So, there's many things, like you said, land mafia, gangsters, politics, all of them are true.
Correct.
I think the role of a journalist is that you talk to all sides. You try to understand what's going on. In most cases, like the land mafia, gangster, politician, the trail is not easy to detect because it happens in a very sophisticated manner, at least now. Earlier के time पे I understand what you're saying, that it was a lot more brazen.
Yeah.
इसका पैसा यहाँ पे लगा है, इसका पैसा यहाँ पे लगा है, ये politician का यहाँ पे. But today I think it's a lot more sophisticated operation. So it's tough to know, which is why even though I think a reporter might have a hunch that this is involved, he will join the dots. But it's very tough to say with certainty that this is the case. This is because of land acquired for ABC reason, or this is because of so-and-so's money. So the journalist has to be very cautious because you can't be slandering. And one thing I am very clear, Mayank, is that anyway, media reputation in the last 10 years has got badly hit. And I don't blame people. We've made mistakes that way. But you have to be very, very cautious that whatever you say can be backed up.
Correct.
My simple formula is that in case if I make a mistake, so somebody comes and tells me, Ki Vishal, you are wrong because of ABC reason, and I'm convinced with it now, I will openly admit I'm wrong, I will delete whatever I've said or written. On the other hand, if somebody threatens me, ki, you are wrong, you should delete it, in case, if you don't do it, a defamation case will happen. But he can't prove why I'm wrong, I won't take a step back. So I have a very clear thing, there's no ego in it. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, I'll withdraw. But if I'm not wrong, and if you're threatening me, then I'll double down.
Correct. Why is there? But what's the reason of the land mafia and political involvement in real estate as such compared to other industries? You don't see too much of political involvement and the mafia in, say, a tech industry. why so in the land? Why so in real estate?
See, real estate is the only industry where through a signature, the value of land and property can go up 3 or 5x. I just make one change, the value of property multiplies. So there, because of that, political involvement is necessary. You need to get politicians. Just think of it today's example. We are seeing most amount of construction, the most priciest construction today happening at the sea face, right? Bandstand, Carter Road, Worli sea face. Nothing changed except one signature, right? Except one policy change, and the value of the property suddenly has gone up 4x. So because of that, there's an incentive, politicians to be involved. Land is that raw material which in India is very complicated. Kiska hai, kiska nahi hai, and it's been going on for donkey's years.
Correct.
So you have to take everybody together. The only a good example of how tough this land mafia is that just think the best turnout of builders for land was when the textile mills were being auctioned. Why? Because it's clean land. बाकी सब में कुछ ना कुछ झोल है. NTC में ठीक है, I don't mind paying a premium. So that constraint will always be there, and that's, man, it's there actually in most countries, not in most cities of India. In most countries,
Correct.
real estate is
Opaque in general and
it's
shady.
linked with, that's why it gets that margin, no?
Correct. Do journalists get, threats? Have you ever got a threat because you probably reported something you shouldn't have reported?
So threats, I think, so if you're a real estate reporter and you don't get threats, that means you aren't a real estate reporter. Okay? Then you are just a stenographer. So yeah, I've got threats. See, in most cases, developers today are very savvy. They will, if they have to threaten you also now, they will threaten you in a very persuasive way, okay, in a very subtle way. Many of them don't even do that. They have a very healthy equation. It's not like the earlier times, कि reporter ने ये लिखा तो bear the consequences. Most of them understand how it works. They're savvy enough. Some of them who are still stuck in the 1970s, 80s, they still have that approach. कि I'll threaten you with this, I'll threaten you with
get
that.
my work done.
So I've got those sort of threats, but in most cases, I've got threats of defamation, but not defamation.
Okay, so they haven't gone ahead and filed the suit.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the maximum case, if I have to just recall, is a 100 crore defamation case.
100 crore defamation case on you.
From a builder. And for that thing, I didn't take a step back there, but like in case if there's one example, in fact, of the other side. I reported of one builder in Odisha, I forget his name. Somebody released a report that he took the most expensive loan, okay, in India, some 32%. Okay, I reported that. After 2 days or 3 days, that company reached out to me saying that that report had a wrong number. Because there was some discrepancy from his or the bank side where the published number was wrong. It was not 31%, it was 14%. So he said, if you can please delete the tweet, will be appreciated. He sent me the documents, supporting documents. I read it. It was like within 5 minutes.
Right.
Saw it, verified it, deleted the tweet. 1 week later, I was still seeing that people are talking about that company. A company called DN Homes, okay? I still realize that people are doing, because people take screenshots, right?
Right.
So I've deleted the tweet, but the screenshot is living
The
on.
digital footprint will always be there.
It's right. I issued a separate tweet saying that what's the earlier thing that I mentioned, which was over 30%, the actual rate is 14%. So if somebody tells me that Vishal, it's wrong, some issues happen, I'll be the first to do it. Kuch ego nahi hai mera.
Correct, absolutely. We're sitting in this beautiful city of chaos that we all love, the financial hub of India, Mumbai, and it has a very interesting history, right? You know that a lot more because you're so into history, right? But we want to know that, A, was Bombay always expensive as in terms of real estate? And B, how did that rich history of Bombay, it's so unique, right, intertwine itself and, get to where we are right now? Basically, how is that history still affecting Bombay property prices?
So see, Bombay has been expensive for a very long time, and the last time I think when it was cheap was when Portuguese were giving Bombay to the British. That was 1662, okay, and they gave Bombay as dowry, okay. Portuguese gave Bombay as dowry to the British. The British got it and they realized that they went for a rude shock. Portuguese ने बोला मुंबई पर निकला डोंबिवली.
Correct.
या Portuguese ने बोला Connaught Place पर निकला Greater Noida.
Correct.
So what do? It's not worth a while. They gave it to East India Company, the British, full Bombay for a annual rent of £10. Okay. And there's a reason why it was so cheap. Bombay was it was like a fishing village. There was nothing really over there. There was no value intrinsically attached to it. Its value came after the British got into the act. So today's Bombay is still an outcome of what the British planned 300 odd years ago. You said 7 islands, Bombay ka. The key juncture came in, I think, was in uniting those 7 islands.
Correct.
Otherwise, 7 islands are separate. They're like a chota Maldives, no?
Correct.
How do you get value? You unite it together, then create a harbour.
So reclamation was very, very necessary.
Reclamation was necessary. Uniting those 7 islands with a cohesive plan to make it something more. And they had identified very quickly, British, that pehle Bombay ka utility was what? Its proximity to Surat, which was the key port. Then they had the initiative to say ki let's make something out of Bombay. And they were the ones who called Lavji Wadia, today's Bombay Dyeing family, the original, to come from Surat to Bombay to make ships. He made ships. He was the best shipbuilder of Asia. And his ships were so good that even the British used to say that his ships will last longer, they are much more durable, they are much better. It's hurting us. Wow. Okay. So in a way, the people who have made Bombay today are British, Mr. Wadia with the shipbuilding, because shipbuilding then made Bombay a port, right?
Right.
And after that, we have seen a series of things that have come through from East India Company doing reclamation, like you said. Reclamation is a thing that in 1800s was going on in many countries. 1860s they started here. It didn't take off. 1920 is when we finally saw something of consequence.
Correct.
And today, what we see Marine Drive is that. So, reclamation, that goal, if I just think of it, we are Marine Drive, we all know today, right? It's a consequence of a failed reclamation project. The idea was to take so many acres.
Right.
They failed. They could take only like 5% of the initial aim. क्या करे वो land का? थोड़ा land military को दे दिया, बाकी वहाँ पे Marine Drive बना दिया.
Correct.
That was
Correct. Posh area, I mean, nevertheless, right now. And speaking of posh areas, right? How did Mumbai become the cotton hub of Asia? And because that indirectly, and you see all these cotton mills have now become prime real estate in Mumbai. So, that history is so important, right? How does that, happen?
So, for that, who do you think, Mayank, in your view, made cotton, okay? Who do you think made Bombay the wealthy city it is, according to you?
I would assume the Britishers and the Parsis immediately afterwards.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But, there was an indirect player who helped Bombay cotton to go to the next level. That was the American president, Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
It's a very interesting story.
I would have never guessed that.
So, like you said, Parsi is British. What were Parsis doing earlier? What were other people really doing here? Bombay in the early 1800s was like a place for a lot of wealth was made through opium. Now, opium today is a negative term, but that time it was almost quasi-legal.
Correct.
Everybody was into opium and they were making a lot of money. Cotton opened up with mills realizing that there is an opportunity. The idea was to make something very small. Abraham Lincoln enters into the scene. What does he do? In 1860s, England is getting most of its cotton requirement from America. In America, it's split two ways, northern and southern. Southern guys wanted slavery to continue. Northern guys did not want slavery to continue. Election happened. Abraham Lincoln won. Obviously, the Southerners felt कि boss, abhi slavery will be banned. So they declared independence from the country. So what does Lincoln do? The American government do? They block all the ports of the southern states. What does that do? That blocks all the cotton exports to England. Who helps them then? Cotton to chahiye.
Welcome India.
Welcome India. So Bombay filled that gap. Within that, the early guys were the Parsis, the British. They combined together and all, and they made tons of wealth in that period from 1860 to 1865. Cotton prices went up 5 times. 5 times. Additional wealth of almost $100 million of that time was earned by the market there.
Good God.
And that money which they made, okay, a lot of it got frittered away because of the cotton market cracking later on. A lot of that money which was made, that went into what you like, reclamation. It went into dockyards, went into land, went into shares. So that nucleus was cotton.
Got it. So that actually has funded your major urban planning of Bombay. What you see Bombay is significantly because of contribution from the cotton industry.
And within that, Abraham Lincoln. So we all should be thanking Abraham Lincoln ki boss, you won the election, go export for block.
What a butterfly effect, you know. What a great domino effect. And you know, we are sitting right now in Lower Parel, which is, you see so many cotton mills being redeveloped into huge structures out here. I mean, that's just crazy.
So, for that also, one other person who you and me should thank is one trade union leader. One trade union leader called Datta Samant.
Yeah, correct.
He was a
labor union, yes.
He was a heavyweight. Mills and factories would come to a stop at his one claim. And he had become so powerful that he could negotiate arrangements with every company for the workers. Workers used to go to him. In the 1980s, he played a very brave card. He called for a full strike in 1982 of all the workers. Okay. All the workers went on strike. Mills that were anyway weak and on the verge of bankruptcy.
Correct.
They actually went bankrupt. Workers lost their jobs. They earning. And that created, in a way, after 50 and 20 years,
correct,
to create where we're sitting now in your office, Lower Parel, to see these glossy towers.
Right. So he basically, in his optimism, he actually shut down the cotton industry in a way, so to speak, and indirectly gave birth to luxury real estate in this part of the city.
He is one of the guys all builders should be thanking for.
Abraham Lincoln and Siddhartha Samant.
And in a way, if you look at it, for too long, Bombay was South Bombay, and then you had Worli and Bandra, right? The center part that was there, that was empty, right?
Right.
It was not really a place for people to come and stay, the
Right.
wealthy, upper middle class. Because the mills went bankrupt, that place opened up for housing, and that shaped, in a way, how today's housing market is, right?
Yeah.
South Bombay was one super premium. A lot of that crowd came to Central Mumbai. Big plots, amenities, gated community experience. All that would not have happened if these mills had not got shut.
Yeah.
So in a way, he reshaped the housing market
Correct.
indirectly.
Yeah, absolutely. We see this big boom of people now coming to other parts of Mumbai that we used to think were so far away back in the day. So yeah, I think
I don't know how many, you of course seem a lot younger than me, but I don't know how many people actually would have thought 15 years back also, will they shift from South Bombay and go to any other part of Mumbai?
You know, there's a very funny story. Back in the day when we were in school, COs, as now it's shut down, but that used to be in Phoenix Mills, COs where kids would go bowling. And that felt like an outing for us, like we were going out of town back in the day. Coming from Colaba all the way to COs as children, it felt so far away. And now I myself have shifted here. And it feels like only a 15-minute drive I can reach, major parts of South Bombay in probably 20 minutes, erasing the traffic, if there weren't traffic. Yeah.
So just imagine at that time, South Bombay, how many, now, like you said about yourself, the bulk of the population that has moved to Central Mumbai is that, no?
Yeah, significant.
And he gave us, inadvertently,
Correct.
that entire zone to develop.
Correct. We've spoken a lot about Mumbai's history. We've spoken about reclamation, Portuguese gifting Mumbai to the Britishers, reclamation, merging of the 7 islands, land mafia, gangsters in real estate, and Parsi land ownership. That's one thing I think we should touch upon as well. How did the Parsi community, a very well-respected community of course, get access to so much land in a city like Mumbai?
So Parsis are actually visionaries. The earlier bunch at least, you can say that with certainty. So they came into Bombay in tough circumstances.
Right.
But they made Bombay what it is today, with support of the British. And one thing we have to understand, is that British provided Bombay something which was not there in most other parts of India. They provided you freedom, protection, religion, whatever you want to practice. Portuguese ke time pe the model was very simple. I just want Bombay for basically two reasons, and one big reason in that was fostering my religion, Christianity.
Christianity, yes.
British come, you do what you want. Okay. In that, Parsis led the way when it comes to the two big businesses of the 19th century, opium and cotton. Others were also involved, but Parsis ruled the roost because they had a discipline, they had the ingenuity to how to do business. Where they do not have any, blinkers. I will not do opium. Business for me, I'll do it. And after they made the wealth, so many others followed in. Same with cotton. And what do you do with this money when you make money? Even today the practice continues, Paisa bana na, property kharid do. Abhi just the difference is that time instead of buying property, they used to buy acres.
Correct.
Or entire villages.
Correct.
The smartest thing that they did was they ensured the right documentation. The paperwork is there to ensure that I am the legitimate owner of this land. And British model was very clear. I am giving this land, rent is so and so. Your mandate is to upgrade the land. Most other people would think, why should I upgrade it and all? But they said, okay, I will come, I will change the location, I will make it green, I will grow mangoes. One of the mango, allegedly the first person who sent mango from India to the Queen was a Parsi. Because he grew it in his estate in Powai.
Now I can't imagine Powai being even used for farming and growing mangoes. That'll be one hell of an expensive mango.
But the thing of the way you want to foster relationships.
Right.
How you want to create the entire area, create this produce, an orchard, opium, cotton, everything that you want to do, right?
Correct.
So if you don't have that baggage, I'll do anything. And they did it, and today when you see most Parsi bags or estates,
right,
they seem that they were planned well in advance, right? When I see some of the estates that were planned in 1920s, 1930s, and today I find them better planned than today's.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of those bags are just stunning, even today.
For land, in fact, now when I look at it, I think 7 of the top 10 or 11 landowners are Parsis.
Yeah, that's
the biggest one being, of course, Godrej.
Yeah, of course. I want to talk about the history of different pin codes of Bombay and how that history has defined the current real estate trends of those pin codes, right? So shall we?
Of course.
Let's begin with Vikhroli.
So the Vikhroli, when anybody says Vikhroli, the first name that comes to your mind is Godrej.
100%.
So Godrej owns 3,500 odd acres of land there. And this is almost what? From the 1940s. So 1940s is when Godrej took a big bet in acquiring the entire village, big land. Then it was in the middle of nowhere. But, the biggest, we think of Godrej first as thinking of, locks. Okay?
Right.
When they got that factory set up in the 1940s, in 2 tranches, 1943, 1948, the land, their factory was first used to make ballot boxes for India's election. The difference in Vikhroli of Godrej and of most other owners of different parts of Bombay, Mayank, is that Godrej is the only player who has protected the land.
Managed to still retain it, yeah.
Baki sabka encroach ho gaya.
Correct.
Today when you look at Godrej as an enterprise, most of its valuation is derived from this Vikhroli land parcel.
Correct.
Bought at then of course an expensive rate, but today it's nothing.
Peanuts. Yeah.
Peanuts. So amongst all the holders, today's biggest landowner is Godrej. And this Vikhroli is his ocean.
Literally.
Everybody else is faltered to a degree. And think of it that today when we go to Vikhroli and we see the type of protection they have done, not just for their land which is developable. A lot of the land that they have is non-developable.
Correct. A lot of it is in mangroves also. Yeah.
Exactly. That's been protected.
Right.
Most people think, "Arey, itna dur hai, kyun jaun main?" And think in 1950s and 60s.
Correct.
You're talking about your experience Colaba se
Correct.
Parade.
Correct.
Imagine for those owners who were staying at Malabar.
1940s, yeah.
So today it's getting its value, but Vikhroli is Godrej and Godrej altogether. Even the Eastern Express Highway, that is
Full total domination.
total domination.
What about Powai?
So Powai is a very fascinating story. Powai today, when we think Powai, the first name that comes to our mind is Niranjan Hirannani, right? And he's done justice to what it
Of course.
But the guy who set the platform for Powai was a guy almost 200 years back. Okay, one person, one Parsi called Framji Kovasti Banerjee. Now he made his money through cotton. How did he make it? This is again luck. He had a ship which was exporting cotton to China. Okay. Now normally it's a straightforward trade. I said I get my money. He had a ship which could move at a good speed. At that time, the British and French were fighting. So along with his ship, many other ships were there. The French attacked the British. They took all the ships except his because his was fast. That provided a big opportunity to him. Why? One, his ship reached China. Two, because all the other ships were captured, cotton scarcity was there, so cotton prices shot up. So he had a bumper harvest because of one event where his ship escaped.
Faster.
He got the money. What did he do it? He put it in land, and he bought the full Powai estate.
All of Powai.
Which is almost 2,000 acres there, no? Okay. The mandate very clear. You have to improve the location. He made it a fine location. Roads, sunk wells, orchards, mango for the Queen, British Queen. First one to get a taste of the Indian mango was through him in Britain. Okay. Now, he also understood one thing that most builders today recognize, that freehold is better than leasehold land. So the British gave him land, it's on lease, pay a certain rent every year. He said, no, I want to convert it to freehold. So
back then.
He paid 10 years rent at one go and converted that leasehold into freehold land. Almost 48,000 rupees. Okay. The entire thing was him without any issues, state with involvement, nothing. His misfortune was, after he passed away, his family could not maintain it. And from him, it went to many other people. The last one being Mr. Hirannani. But before that, there was the Sharmas. Okay, Sharmas are also a very popular family in Powai when you go to. Their importance is a lot of their land of today IIT Bombay is courtesy donated by them. They donated the land on which IIT came up. Even today they have construction in the Powai area of their own. One very sparkling commercial building also. But that journey from Framji Kovasti, he laid the foothold. And others have upgraded. And today it's Mr. Hirannani who is defined Powai.
Totally. I agree. Can you talk about the history of Nariman Point?
Nariman Point is the most controversial story, I think, of Mumbai. So it's part of amongst the last reclamation schemes of Bombay. Reclamation, its philosophy was very simple, right? When land becomes so expensive, people think, what will I do? I'll convert sea to land. That's the story why reclamation happened from 1860s. क्यों मैंने किया? जमीन का इतना भाव है, जमीन और ज़्यादा नहीं है तो क्या करूँ? बना दूँ. So British of 1800s and the US Federal Reserve have one thing in common. What do I do to make money? Print it.
Just print it.
So I am printing land.
Correct.
One is printing currency, one is printing land.
They actually manufactured land.
Exactly, manufactured land.
Yeah.
Much later, how we are seeing branding land. And
correct.
All. They were the pioneers. Okay,
absolutely.
So they had a stint in 1860s, which didn't go according to plan. in 1920s, they were doing a reclamation scheme where they wanted to take 1500 acres all the way from Colaba to Malabar Hill. Okay. 1500 acres, imagine. Problem was, the engineering then did not account for the type of strength of rock. So the pace of reclamation, of dredging, was not as fast as expected, which means the time to complete would be longer. So it went into losses. The person who led an assault against them, the British, 1500 acre ka plan tha, I landed up reclaiming 1/20th of it, or less than that. Okay? 20 odd acres. Okay, so, yeah, so 2%.
Correct.
Okay. The person who led the charge was a person called Veer Nariman. Okay.
Okay.
He pointed out that there's a scam in this, that the Britishers have used it for money making, etc. He brought it to a halt. Okay. British sued for defamation. He won the case. Okay. Today there's a road named after Veer Nariman Road in South Bombay. Many years later, Nariman Point is got his name. The plan for Nariman Point was simple. You want to create a residential hub. Okay. Cuff Parade and Nariman Point. In a way, I'm using them both together. A residential hub with a lot of open spaces, gardens, parks, etc. That fell victim to a lot of collusion, or alleged collusion, I want to use that word.
As a journalist now, yeah.
Alleged collusion between the government and builders. 1970s, if you think of it, Nariman Point, the success of Nariman Point coincides with the failure of Navi Mumbai. In 1970s, the plan was to shift the commercial hub of Mumbai and take it into Navi Mumbai. That's how the city was being designed, 1970s. Okay, they acquired land, they did everything, built parks, gardens, buildings, etc. Only thing left was driving commercial activity from Mumbai into Navi Mumbai. Last minute, a googly came. The people who owned the land there, they said, "Hey boss, don't take it there, keep it here." Because the moment that goes over there, Bombay comes closing down.
Yeah.
So that parcel that was a reclamation, it sees the most fanciest of towers. Express Tower, Oberoi Hotel, NCPA, Air India building, all in 1970s.
Fancy real estate.
But at that time, it was considered a scam. One good thing about real estate is, because of buildings outliving memories, people forget it.
Massive shelf life. Yeah.
At that time, most people used to say it. Well, before you and me were born.
Correct.
At that time, people perceived the boss, what are you doing? And they named it after the person who actually opposed the previous reclamation. Nariman Point.
I think that was a very good political move, so to speak, to calm the general sentiment down.
True. Yes.
Wow. And in a way, you said that they could only reclaim 1/20th, maybe 2% of the land. In a way, I think that is one of the reasons why Mumbai real estate is so expensive, because we still have less land. Imagine if the British had managed to reclaim everything that they wanted to, we would have access to more land, right? And which would obviously naturally reduce property prices.
So, I agree to an extent. See, the thing is, whenever reclamation happens now, the logic remains constant. क्यों कर रहे हैं हम लोग? Housing shortage है. Okay. People reclaim it, but then they go and build fancy towers there. Now, in that strip, whichever you're doing, you're not going to create affordable housing.
Correct.
Affordable guy cannot buy there, right?
Absolutely.
So the idea was maybe right to reclaim that zone. But the counter to that is, can you actually widen cities? Can you make them bigger? Rather than putting people in one small thing, widen it. So 1860s reclamation plan coincided with another big initiative of the 1850s, 1860s, the opening of the railways. That provided you access. Okay. From point A, right from south to north. Or
correct.
Reclamation opened up a different venue. Earlier, the Bombay used to get flooded very easily. High tide, na? 7 islands.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
So basically, since you mentioned where you stay, okay, that part, Mahalakshmi area, that used to get flooded every time.
Yeah.
What used to come from one side, go to the other side. So what do? I join them together, reclaim. So water does not flood. Now suddenly that area is open for housing. So a lot of reclamation has helped in opening Bombay. Whether it has opened it up for affordable housing, that I think is a debate.
Yeah. Now, speaking of luxury housing and affordable housing, let's talk about luxury housing right now. Vishal bhai, Malabar Hill has been probably or is the most expensive pin code in Mumbai, which makes it the most expensive pin code in India. Was it always this expensive, and how did Malabar Hill end up becoming this super affluent location?
So Malabar Hill has been expensive, but it was not always expensive. Okay, it's been expensive maybe for the last 100, 120 odd years. Till the 1800s, 1850s, the area to be in was fort. Where do I stay? Status symbol, fort. Now what is fort? We know today as the area as fort is the location, but earlier there was actually a fort. Inside that fort used to stay the British elite and the elite of India. Then they did the mistake that most municipal bodies today also make. Allow construction everywhere. ठीक है? हर जगह पे construction आ रहा था. ये यहाँ पे आ गया, यहाँ पे खाली जगह यहाँ पे बना दो building. ठीक है? Because it got so congested, then the elite said, "Boss, this is not working for us. What do? We need a new location." Okay. That location typically went into two geographies. Okay. One was Baikala, okay, and other was Malabar Hill. Those two areas have really been
correct.
Today, Baikala seems it's not a very
it didn't gather what the stardust that a Malabar Hill did.
But in the times of 1850s, 1860s, the area to be in Bombay was Baikala. So it was very close to fort.
Correct.
एक road था वहाँ पे बन गया. So the wealthiest people, be it the Jija boys, okay, who got baronet status also by the British, okay, who made his money in opium and cotton, David Sassoon, an Iraqi Jew, okay, who came to Bombay and made his
and
money.
that Sassoon dock was, I think, after that family.
Exactly. He was staying in Baikala. What happened there? Like the wheels of commerce come into play. That area became popular for mills. 1850s, the mill started.
Correct.
Okay. And Bombay saw an explosion of textile mills because of the demand. Because of mills, so much pollution, became crowded, mill workers came around. Then the elite said, "Boss, ये मेरे लिए नहीं है." Where do they go? That's when Malabar Hill comes to the picture. I go right to one corner, okay, far away from everybody else. The person who triggers it is the former governor of Bombay, Mount Stuart Elphinstone.
He took the best chunk in Malabar Hill.
He took the best chunk. He went in early. Everybody followed him. Like it's typical when you want to be close to power, right? After him, everybody went to Malabar Hill, and it became the paradise that it did. You had to have a status symbol,
right?
Malabar Hill. So much so that Muhammad Ali Jinnah, okay, the founder of Pakistan and one of the key players in the partition of India, he bought a bungalow in Malabar Hill to be close to show that I am today the lawyer of Bombay. He was a very smart man, very intelligent. But how do I establish my status? Like today, your status depends on where you stay, na? I stay in ABC location.
Correct.
I stay in Worli, Malabar Hill, ye wo sea facing. Malabar Hill, he took a place there. Today, that plot of his, which is still one of the maybe 2 or 3 plots is idle, is worth 1,000 crores, which goes to the point you said, the most expensive.
Correct.
So Malabar Hill has seen a change from fort to Baikala to Malabar Hill, and today also it's still the place. Right. Though I think some will today say that Malabar Hill is thoda retirement community ho gaya hai.
Losing its charm a bit, but it's still the most expensive.
In fact, the Baikala example, Baikala to Malabar Hill, that person I mentioned, Sassoon Dockyards, David Sassoon, right? He stayed in Baikala. His eventual last home of his family was Malabar Hill.
They migrated.
He also migrated, boss, ye mere nahi hai. On that plot of his, where his bungalow stood, stands probably the most iconic building of Bombay, Il Palazzo.
Oh yes.
At the top, where today
who's
late Rakesh Jhunjhunwala used to stay there.
Right.
Harsh Goenka.
Fantastic, gentry.
Superb gentry.
Fantastic. Right next to the club, WIA club as well. Right. Very interesting actually. Fort was called Fort because there was actually a fort there which got demolished. So that was, a lot of people who probably live in Fort or work in Fort still don't know that.
True.
So thanks for pointing, thanks for reminding all of us. Western suburbs, that is probably the most chaotic part of Mumbai, right? It is the most chaotic part of Mumbai. And, whenever I have to use, say I have to go to Borivali from town and back, I know that at least to and fro, if there's traffic, 4 hours can easily it'll just disappear. You don't even know where you spent 4 hours. Now, my question to you is, who owned most of the western suburbs? How did, obviously western suburbs, because of its proximity to the sea, is still popular than central suburbs. How did western suburbs come about?
See, western suburbs was once owned by another wealthy Parsi. Okay.
It's always the Parsis.
Always a Parsi. Okay. Person called. Okay, I'll ask you differently. Wait. We know today of Shah Rukh Khan and Salman Khan. Where do they stay?
Bandra.
Bandra. You're right. Where in Bandra do they stay?
I mean, Carter Road and Bandstand.
Right. Bandstand. That road is called Bairamji Jijaboy Road, BJ Road. He was a person, and he owned most of the western suburbs. The Bandra Fort, that area that is there, ahead of Land's End, to Jogeshwari, to Kandivali was all owned by him. He was the biggest landowner of Bombay. He owned it. Now, like most other of his Parsi colleagues, his family, by the time they got into monetizing it, most of it was encroached. He did not do what Godrej did, protect the land. So, right now, a lot of the land has either been sold or it's been encroached. But they are still amongst the top 10 landowners.
In spite of that.
They still own some 250, 260 odd acres of land, depending on the last government data. And how much of it is in condition to be monetized instantly is debatable. But that area, that wealth, Juju Boys again, wealth, the same old formula.
Right.
Opium, cotton. They make it. Opium has been such a fascinating place for Bombay is that the creation of Hong Kong is because of opium in Bombay. Okay. British used to import a lot of things from China. What did they export? Opium. At one point, opium became too much for China. They said, boss, we nahi chahiye. And they confiscated one big consignment. All these entrepreneurs who
China suffered with a very big opium addiction problem.
And Bombay entrepreneurs are a cause. Okay. Probably not the only cause, but we are a cause. Okay. Now, after they confiscated the consignment of opium, all these entrepreneurs went to the British and said, boss, what's going on? They fought a war. There are 2 opium wars. The consequence of China losing the opium wars is how Hong Kong was handed to the British.
In debt.
Reparations that they do,
Right,
important thing.
right.
Kya mere ko dega return mein? Hong Kong came. So Hong Kong to British control is because of opium.
Wow.
They controlled it for the next 140, 150 years till 1990s.
Mumbai has the most number of slums in India for any city. Why is that?
So it's a very simple reason, Mayank. It's like a slum capital, right? We call it slum by for a reason. Half the population lives there. Not all of them by choice, or rather most of them not by choice. Okay. Mumbai has not had an affordable housing policy for very long. So either you have houses for the rich or you have for the middle class. For the poor, there was no such provision.
Correct.
The last provision that we had was mainly for chawl workers. So what becomes the next best option? Create a slum. जहाँ पे जगह मिली, बना दो. Local politician feels happy, protection दे रहा हूँ मैं तेरे को. Or in return, I want my hafta, whatever they call it. Okay. Now, the turning point in my view came in the 1980s. In 1985, government incentivized removal of slums by saying, "Ki boss, you buy a home, we'll help you with 10% of the amount. 10%, 10%. Okay. So you go and buy a small home somewhere, thoda paisa hai, we'll contribute 10%, finished. By 1995, this 10% discount or subsidy that government was offering became 100%. We will give you a free flat.
Correct.
Now, obviously, when you are going to give free flats, there is a perverse incentive to create more of it.
Yeah.
Which is why after that policy, the number of slums has increased, not decreased. The policy was designed to reduce slums. But you give such an incentive that there are more slums today than there were earlier.
I'll get a free home if I just build a slum.
And it's no secret that today also many people, they create that home, they free milta hai, and then they create another.
Correct. Absolutely.
So it's like the most direct wealth transfer from the middle and upper middle class to the poor.
Right. No, like you said, there's a big problem at least in the Mumbai real estate slum community, is that these SRA flats, a lot of slum dwellers, what they're doing is they get the SRA flat on their name. They will indirectly, under the table, lease it to somebody else and get the money for it, like 10, 20,000 bucks a month. And then they'll go down and build a slum again underneath that same building. Because they're happy living in the slum. But now because of the free home that they got, they're getting rent also. They're getting like 15 to 20,000 rupees a month.
That is their annuity business, no?
Absolutely.
And for them, because they've stayed in slums, most of them, they're comfortable staying in other slum.
Correct.
I don't need a house. Why do you need a house?
Yeah.
Building mein mil raha hai, what's the benefit?
Free mein mil raha hai, mere ko government is giving. That's why Singapore did a good thing. They gave it on lease to them and they didn't give a full 100% subsidy, which is why I think Singapore could eradicate slums in one shot.
So Singapore model is one of the models we should emulate in many aspects. This model, I don't think we can do it given our political constraints. But Singapore model, to some extent, we have adopted by saying you cannot sell for 10 years.
Correct.
But like you said,
correct,
people do it through the back door.
Correct.
Power of attorney, that regular game.
And I think now they reduced it to 5 years as well. So it's only getting worse.
The plan is that 5 years from the time of demolition of your slum. So there is a good chance I've demolished your slum. By the time the building is even ready, the moment you can sell it.
Correct.
It's not from the time you get the apartment. From the time I demolish your slum, 5 years after that, you can sell the flat.
The moment you get possession, please sell it.
It's as simple as that. So they are traders.
Yeah, direct flip of the...
Direct flip.
Now the flip side of slums are apartments and flats. When did apartments and flats first get introduced in a city like Bombay?
So it was in the early 1900s. Earlier, the wealthy had their houses. Okay, they didn't want to share space. Like a typical, North India mindset. अरे apartment थोड़ा down market है. मुझे खुद की ज़मीन चाहिए, खुद का घर चाहिए. I don't want to share space. Okay.
Which is still, what happens in tier 2 and 3, towns. People want their own bangla.
वहाँ पे तो status symbol है ना.
Correct.
अगर तू apartment रहता है मतलब गरीब है तू.
Correct.
ठीक है.
चाहे 2000 square foot का apartment भी हो.
Then of course they come to Bombay and they say, how are you guys paying so much for this? What
Was
losers?
this pigeonhole?
What losers are you all?
Seriously.
Okay. So it came in the 1920s. The model was कि earlier you had these tenements, chaws, what do you want to call them? And that was designed mainly for textile workers to be close to the workplace.
Correct.
They had a problem that the toilet used to be outside. And most of the common area was at the courtyard bahar. The concept like of a 1 BHK, an apartment is defined as something which is a self-sustaining unit. I don't need to go out for anything. That came with the introduction of the bathroom inside the apartment. Now today we think it's very normal, kya big deal hai? At that time, it meant the home becoming bigger, number one. Number two, the person being comfortable that he's staying in the same place where he is using the bathroom. So it was a mindset shift that had to happen. When that came in, it took some time to adopt it. Okay, because one, the homes became bigger because you had to accommodate the bathroom inside. So ticket size rose. Number two, the person had to be okay with the fact that I'm sleeping in the same place where I'm actually going to the toilet.
Right.
Earlier the charm was toilet bahar hai na.
Correct.
But it took its time, and then once it took off, then
now you see the convenience of it. In fact, I think instead of one bedroom hall kitchen, it should be called one bathroom hall kitchen. Because bathroom was the main inclusion.
And frankly, Mayank, seeing the size of apartments today, 1 BHK can be 1 bathroom, all kitchen only.
Literally. I've seen a 1 bed, 260 square foot, 1 BHK. 260. It's lesser than an SRA flat.
That is one of the biggest hindrances of our real estate market. It is anti-middle class.
Yeah.
Mumbai's housing market is anti-middle class. I visited a project, Mayank, a 2 BHK of 330 square feet over 1 crore in Worli.
Wow.
Okay, over 1.3, 1.4 crore. You have no minimum size requirements for a home to be sold. I can do 200 square feet also, and a buyer has the option. But I have a minimum size requirement for a slum redevelopment flat.
Correct.
How is that fair? I just can't comprehend it.
Correct.
To a buyer, you are saying your home can be smaller than the SRA flat. There's one project in Chembur where the size, it's a SRA project. The slum dweller is getting a bigger flat than the home buyer.
Than the actual sale tower.
Now, they had these minimum size requirements that a home has to be of a certain size, a bedroom has to be of a certain size. We have to get back to it. Otherwise, in a market like Mumbai, where people are just adjusting, people adjust to anything.
Correct. There's a common joke in the industry that the only way to make something affordable is to decrease its size.
And, because of that, the biggest, victims of this are the middle class. Because what happens in this equation that you're saying? You're right. How do you reduce the price of the home? Reduce the size of the home. Who gains in this? Municipal corporation, they get their FSI ka premium. Builder makes his profit.
He's charging same per square foot technically.
The only one who's compensating, is compromising his life is the buyer.
Absolutely.
So we have to get over this mindset that, buyer middle class ko choose lo. Wahi formula hai na abhi to.
Absolutely. And now we've seen, flat hoga 250 square foot, 300 square foot ka, or building 70 stories high. And there's so many massive skyscrapers coming up. And my question is Mumbai is filled with skyscrapers right now, right? 70, 75 floors high. Now, don't you think, theoretically, concrete structures, shelf life should be around 70 years, right? But in the years to come, in India, technically, it could be way lesser. Say, let's assume 40 to 50 years. Don't you think this will be a very big urban challenge in the future, in the next coming 3 decades, when you'll have to redevelop a 70 floor high, building?
I think, Mayank, that's a very good question, and I don't think it can be done. Means never say never.
Correct.
And maybe technology will reach that stage where it can be doable. But so far, it doesn't look like anything is on the horizon. We have seen tall buildings been in existence for almost 100 years.
Correct.
Okay. In Mumbai, it's recent, but in the 1930s, we saw
the
World Trade
Empire State
Center.
Building,
We have seen those, right? And those were built in a short time.
Correct.
Okay. Within these tall buildings also, there's a theory called the skyscraper curse. It means that whichever company or country builds the tallest building, that company or country goes into bankruptcy or recession. And this is a curse since 1907. Okay. So, example.
Mumbai is heading towards that.
When we do the tallest building of the world, so 1930s, like you said, Empire State Building, it was the tallest building. This Empire State Building, they made a profit after 1950.
That too from the hoardings.
From the sites that you can see, right? They were a very useful tool. We saw the Malaysia Petronas towers. Okay. By the time it was built, we saw the Southeast Asian crisis, which Malaysia sunk the currency. Dubai did Burj Dubai or Burj Khalifa.
Massive crash.
It crashed with that. So India, I think, is wise that they've not gone for the tallest building. The ones who have gone for the tallest building, I think they've regretted it. You don't make money in this. The cost for a 60 floor plus building per square feet construction versus a 20 floor plus building, your construction cost rises by 70 to 80%. Now, are you able to generate that sort of end price from the end buyer like Mayank and Vishal to justify it? Most people will struggle. So, I think now what we are seeing is the peak. It's one of my fancies as a enthusiast to see 100 floor, 120 floor buildings. But I pretty much know anybody goes for 100, 120 buildings is pretty much down the tube.
Yeah.
In Bombay also, right? Palais Royal.
Correct.
Tallest building, abhi tak, for different reasons, admittedly. Minerva.
Right.
Also tallest building, stuck. Now it's finally gaining completion. So tallest building is a very complex task, and we are now, I think, at the peak. इसके
And I
ऊपर
think redeveloping those in like couple of decades will be disastrous.
I think the redeveloped building will take about 20 years to make only. It'll be literally for your kids or your grandkids.
Out of those 20 years, it'll take 10 years to get permissions.
Exactly.
No, you've seen builders who actually build a building in 3 years, but the permission took 4 years.
So that I think is, one BMC commissioner told me a very good line, a former BMC. He said, Vishal, the problem with not keeping things in black and white in real estate is that the builder will always abuse a grey area. Now, maybe he's seen more of the world, he knows how each operation is. So he's right to be cynical. Which is why we see very standardized uniform buildings, right? Because after 2012, we created those norms. Where Subodh Kumar came and said,
absolutely.
Everything is under FSI.
Absolutely.
Balcony, jo karna hai karo, but it all gets counted.
Landmark.
And it helped the industry, but it's created very uniform structures.
Correct.
So now I think we are at that stage where black and white hi karna padega, because the bureaucracy also realized ki don't give grey, usme scam hi hone wala hai.
Correct. Would you buy it under construction or ready? Just curious.
See, I am a guy who believes in love marriage. So, under construction apartment, for me, if you're buying, it's like going for arranged marriage. 2 baar dekh ke aaya ho. And after that, you're making a lifelong decision. The chances of going wrong are very high. Okay. Now, I'm not saying in love marriage, it can't happen. But at least in love marriage, when you go, you're buying a ready unit, love marriage, you know everything. What you like, what you don't like. The walls, leakage hai, dekh sakte ho. Is the size good enough for me? You can make a call. And after that, if you're still disappointed, at least you went with your eyes wide open. So under construction versus ready, I prefer love marriage over arranged marriage.
Very interesting analogy. It's the first time I've heard that. But हाँ, very true. 2 बार देख के finalize करो.
And then you have to get duped, right?
Correct.
Given the type of setup we have, and most things, see.
If you're speaking of setup, I just want to interrupt you, for once. How do you bet on a builder? Apart from the whole disclosure on RERA portal and everything, how do you select your builder? Especially in an under construction project. Under construction,
see, RERA gives good enough details, like you mentioned. I rely on experts. Okay, and who are the experts in a housing project? One alleged expert is the lender.
Right.
वो lend कर रहा है project को. I try to find out what rate of interest is he lending money to that builder at. If it is very high, means the lender is also viewing him, ये बहुत risky builder है.
Correct.
So I think that is one way to look at it. Second is, everybody invites you to the sales office. Every builder, when he is selling a project, वो बोलता है ना, sir, sales office आ जाओ, sales office आ जाओ. That's what they want to show you. For me, it's very clear. See the sales office, but more important than that, go and see his office. Where his office is, how his office is now. In 1 minute, you will know more about a builder by going to the office than by spending 5 hours in the sales office. You will go there, you will see the type of building, you will see the address, you will see किसका नाम बाहर है. अगर बाहर bouncer है तो और भी danger territory है. So you know all those things, right? So 2 things I will look out for. Look at the rate of interest. कितने rate पे वो borrow कर रहा है. और दूसरा, go to the office.
I mean, rate of interest is very critical, right? Because I think the more trustworthy you are, the lower the rate of interest. Correct.
So if it is a high interest rate, 20% पे, if you get to know your builder is borrowing at 20%, you have only one thing to do: run through the back door. Nothing else.
If they let you.
If they let you. If they let you.
Vishal bhai, now RERA has definitely added transparency in real estate. Transparency being the keyword, at least in my opinion. But do you think that RERA is toothless?
So toothless will be wrong. It has teeth, but it's like a 60-year-old person ka teeth, It's weak. And it's not because they don't brush often. It's because they just don't have enough tools.
Correct.
Most times when you look at the flow of activity, buyer takes builder to RERA. The buyer wins it, but builder appeals it. And then it goes into the legal framework, which the entire idea is to tire out the buyer, right?
Correct.
So RERA is doing its bit. I'm looking for a solution wherein RERA's directives have to be enforced.
Exactly.
Otherwise, until then, builders will keep fighting it out in court. And you know, one reality about most Mumbai builders now, and even more about NCR, is that they have a bigger legal team than a construction team. They spend so much time on the legal side that they spend lesser on construction. If they actually reverse it,
Correct.
they will not have that many legal
Yeah.
cases.
You know, in terms of enforcing their judgments, that angle, do you think they're toothless?
They are. In that way, they are toothless. They give their thing and they just say, what can you do now? It's out of their thing. They have given
Correct.
the verdict. You have to pay compensation to the buyer. Builder क्या करता है? No, I will appeal it. So it's a good initiative, like you said. It's brought transparency, and because of the era, I think things like the accounts, they have become cleaner.
Correct.
There's still some gaps that are there. One RERA thing, what they should definitely do is, one blatant gap that I see is, when I buy a home for the apartment plus the amenities, right? But my payment to the builder is linked to the construction of my apartment. So many times, a buyer gets the apartment, amenities come 5 years later, but why are you taking money from me now then?
Correct.
Take it after 5 years, no, when you give me the amenities.
Overall, the project will still look like a construction site. I'm living in dust. I can't use the amenities that I paid a premium for.
Exactly. So eventually, I think we have to
Interesting.
tighten that grip. There's one project, the buyer has got possession in 2020. Okay? Do you know when the amenities will come up? 2028. My one question to anybody.
Standalone ही ले लेता उससे अच्छा.
My question to anybody who's in these bodies is that how can you not earmark payment to amenities? Just a flat, what is the big deal? Then he'll make amenities last, no? But you've taken 100% of the payment from me now. Why?
Very interesting. Would you buy or would you rent?
I would rent. I like to explore locations. I own a home and all, but I keep renting, and I like to try out different locations. And now, of course, since I have a daughter, maybe my penchant for shifting will reduce. But as a habit, I like to rent.
Because you get to try out more homes, basically.
New homes, new locations. I like to get the feel of areas.
How often do you shift homes? Is there a...
So no, but I've stayed in, I'm pretty old, so it may not appear that way, but I stayed in Chembur, I've stayed at Pali Hill, I've stayed at Pedder Road, I've stayed at Powai, I've stayed at Altamont Road, Thane. So I've traveled the entire thing.
Full Mumbai, MMR darshan, not even Mumbai darshan.
And I would like to travel.
Right.
See, for me, I think most of those, what they call super premium locations, I covered that when I was a lot younger because of my father's job. But the real juice is trying out the newer areas which are not as glamorous. The only areas which I don't want to stay in is like Andheri West. And they're completely a mad hole. But something which is a lot more sane, stable, like Borivali, I wouldn't mind staying. So I keep telling my wife, if she's changing her job, make sure the office is somewhere close by, So her job needs her to go to office.
Right.
But for me, I'm on the field. So whether I stay at Powai, at Pedder Road, Kafpuri, doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Perfect. Why do people hate builders? Look, some of the nicest people I know are, developers and builders. But, the first thing when if I ask you what's the first thought that comes in your mind when you think of a builder? People think it's a gunda. And they get intimidated by builders. Why is that?
So builders have created this perception for themselves. I don't think this is a case that, anybody can say, nahi, we are misunderstood. See, builders, for the legacy issues that they had, earlier model was what? I am king. Okay? You have to do what I say. Because that time supply was anyway limited. I can do anything and get away with it. And like you said at the start, why is real estate so connected with politics and landowners? You think that everything is up for my control. Okay. Now, the situation has improved from then, the 1990s, early 2000s. मैं तो कभी पागल बनी था ना उस time, ठीक है? अभी भी when you go to parts of NCR, you feel like it was Bombay pre-2010. कुछ भी builder करता है, ठीक है? Now, they have not tried to address how to position them differently. Okay, now there are two things in this. One is their own actions, and builders screw up a lot. Okay. The other thing is, that's on the positive side, कि builders have not been able to brand themselves differently. many builders don't behave like what they used to do in the 1990s, 1980s, or even early 2000s. It's a very professional outlook. Very professional outlook. For them, they somehow think that sales and marketing is the same as branding. Now, it's no secret that in real estate, Mumbai mein, the only innovation in sales and marketing is that they've introduced two words, na? Passcode and code name. और कुछ तो है नहीं. मतलब it's full of lack of imagination, which goes to the point which we spoke about earlier, why reporters don't want to come in because they think it's down market. Same thing for professional staffers. Arey, why do I come into real estate? Yaar? It's too down market for me. I'm too smart for real estate. The consequences, we get code name, passcode as breakthrough innovations. Okay. Now, in such an environment, how do you build a new narrative for yourself? Which I think, sometimes if I was in the builder's shoes, it is the most easiest task because builders are doing something which nobody else is doing. They are creating new locations. Earlier locations which were marshy, swampy, dirty, messy, they made them habitable. They've created good building with amenities, a lifestyle, but yet they're perceived as chore. Just think of it. I saw your podcast with Mr. Hirandani. In the 1980s, what was that? Quarry land, nothing there, right? To what it is today. He's made it habitable for so many people. Same with so many other builders. Raheja was telling me some months back, he took a place next to a tabela. It was a messy chemical unit. So now, it being a glossy, full micro market. You have transformed the location, but you're not able to tell your story.
Correct.
Because you have either not thought about it, which is poor if you have not thought about it. But if you have thought about it, but you have not acted upon it, it's even worse.
Correct. So yeah, branding definitely is an issue. And I think a lot of developers, what they fail to do is a good post-sales process. I was speaking to Dr. Niranjan Hirandandani and he was sharing his experience about how he gave possession of a 4 BHK flat in Powai, very posh apartment obviously in Powai. And although the end buyer was very happy with the apartment and the project, he was still cribbing about it. He's like, sir, when I got the possession, I didn't feel good only. The site engineer comes, takes out the key from his pocket and just hands it over to me. That was my possession. And he's like, when I went and bought a car, right, which was significantly cheaper, right? They put a garland on me, they put a garland on the car, there was graffiti, I had sweets. They made an experience out of the entire handover process, which is lacking in real estate. So I think, real estate should take inspiration at least from the car industry. And it was very interesting, outlook towards post-sales.
It's actually an extremely good point. Just think of it, Mayank. A house is to a family what a graduation degree is to a student.
Absolutely.
Okay. You're getting what is your prized possession, right? And they make graduation ceremonies an event. Okay. When you go to this US as well as Indian university, when you go to both US and Indian universities, that graduation is a big event. They show that thing, throwing the cap and all the thing. It's an event. Now, for a family, this is even bigger than the education.
Correct.
Yet, when you get the keys, like you gave the example, it's like when Mayank goes to a restaurant, gaadi ki chabi valet ko de dena. That's it. It's the same thing. So yeah, post sales, I don't know how many people have had this experience that from the time they book the apartment till the time they get the apartment, the only interaction with the builder is that for the demand letter.
Paisa lao.
4 years ke liye, there is no other communication. Now, sometimes when I tell people, I'm very surprised when builders ask me, what more can we do? I can think of 100 things, but if your question is that, what more can we do in 4 years? It's a big problem. So, I think builders, in a way, think of home buyers. Have you seen the movie Bachna Hai Hasino?
Yeah, I actually have. Yeah.
There's Ranbir Kapoor and 3 actresses, one being Deepika Padukone and one being Bipasha Basu, the third person, whoever. Okay? Ranbir Kapoor chases each one of them separately. After he gets them, he drops them like a hot potato and moves to the next. Builders think of home buyers the exact same way. I will chase Mayank. I will keep calling him. Sir, please come for a site visit. Please come for a site visit. Have you made your decision? Have you made your decision? Once he's made a decision, na, uske baad no interaction.
The thrill is gone.
The thrill is gone. Then I move to the next one. That will be Vishal. Okay. But your treatment as a buyer and a prospective buyer is very different.
Correct.
You are treated like a king as a prospective buyer. You are treated like a loser once you're a buyer.
Correct. I think post-sale is something where that's the real kind of where most builders are lacking.
Most things. I can't think means now that you told me Mr. Hirandani's experience as well. I think I cannot think more than 3 or 4 builders where the buyer comes and tells me, क्या event था, and it costs nothing,
Yeah,
क्या खर्चा है इस पे यार?
Absolutely.
तू 5 करोड़ की चीज बेच रहा है, 1 लाख का खर्चा कर for calling all your buyers, you are done. He will remember that event.
Absolutely. And you'll actually get more bookings through references because the customer is actually happy in the end.
The reference marketing, though, see, in Mumbai, I think most builders have come to an opinion. So maybe I'm right or wrong. I'm speculating. Okay. Most builders have come to the view कि a Mumbai buyer accepts everything. उसको सब चलता है. What I give him, when I give him, how I give him, he will accept it because he has no choice. Okay. Earlier we had unbranded developers. वहाँ पे your expectation was what? कि घर मिलेगा कि नहीं? घर मिलेगा कि नहीं? Then came branded builders, so-called branded builders. In the brochures, they gave you a picture that you will get 9 out of 10. Obviously, most have failed. किसी का balcony गिर रहा है, किसी का late leakage हो रहा है, किसी का पानी नहीं आ रहा, whatever. Okay. But still, that 9 out of 10 has become 4 out of 10. For the end buyer, he is still comfortable. Because पहले there was no security of getting the house also. Now I'm at least sure I'll get the home. Whether it's a quality home, quality तो ठीक है, मुंबई में कोई देखता भी नहीं है, घर मिल जाए वही काफी है ना. तो once we upgrade from that situation is where I think we'll see bigger change in builders' strategy of treating a buyer even after sales.
Which city are you most bullish on in real estate apart from Mumbai? And what's your comparison between Bangalore, NCR, and Mumbai?
So see, Bangalore, NCR, and Mumbai, they're very different markets. See, a NCR buyer ना, the one who's not a speculator, उसका mindset क्या है कि मैं पैसा दे रहा हूँ, ये पैसा लेके भागेगा नहीं ना. His mindset is that. Okay? He has the lowest expectation. The non-speculator.
Correct.
अब मुंबई बायर ना घर खरीद के मिलेगा कि नहीं, ठीक है. So he's one step higher. ठीक है. Bangalore, they take it as a given. घर मिलने वाला है. They'll ask things like, Vishal, I did not choose that apartment because it's not very tech friendly.
Pampered.
Very pampered. But rightfully so. Okay. It's not tech friendly. I said, what do you mean by that? I said, no, the wiring, the entire MEP, this, that, and all, it should have been right. I said, but you are getting the apartment on time, no? I said, वो तो मिलना ही है ना, उसमें क्या बड़ी बात है? So I tell them, you don't know how lucky you are. Everybody else, NCR guy, builder को पैसे देते वक्त सोचता है, ये भागेगा नहीं ना. मुंबई वाला बिल्डर को पैसे दे के सोचता है, ये घर देगा कि नहीं. बैंगलोर वाला, मुझे घर चाहिए, राइट प्राइस पे चाहिए, टेक फ्रेंडली चाहिए, एम्यूनिटी चाहिए, सब कुछ चाहिए.
What expectations?
So we have to move to that level.
Correct.
Which is one of the reasons why Bangalore builders are coming to Bombay in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Because they spotted a gap, like Prestige.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now Shobha will come.
Purvankara is also.
Purvankara. Yeah. They all are coming because they see the big gap. In 2014, I'll not name the builder. One interesting case happened. I was in Bangalore. I met a builder, and I told him, why don't you come to Bombay? So he was like, देख रहे positioning क्या कर सकते हैं and all. And Bangalore guys are self-contained. खुद का market देख रहे हैं. I said, there's a big issue of delivery in the Mumbai market. So क्या problem है? घर time पे नहीं मिलता. तो I said नहीं. I said quality नहीं मिलता delivery. I said नहीं. I said delivery नहीं होता. I said ये कैसे हो सकता है? So I think they have found that gap.
It was very weird for them to even imagine that you don't get possession on time.
In a market like Mumbai, imagine a Bangalore guy वो बेच रहा है 8,000 पे per square feet. अब मुंबई guy बेच रहा है 25,000 per square feet पे. And he is thinking that 25,000 per square feet guy cannot even assure completion of the project.
Absolutely.
Now when they are coming, I think Prestige has shown the way, right? They built buildings in super fast time. One at Mahalakshmi, one at Mulund. And they will realize if you complete a building in Mumbai, it gets sold.
Yeah.
So that's where the opportunity versus a Mumbai builder going to Bangalore. He's not able to penetrate. He's not able to create the niche. Because what more can he provide over there? If he says the same pitch, like example, Godrej in Noida versus Bangalore. In Noida, Godrej goes and says, "मैं Godrej हूँ, तेरे को flat मिल जाएगा." It'll get sold like this. If he does the same pitch in Bangalore, the buyer will say, "What's the big deal here?"
Yeah, when he is getting flats.
हाँ, सब लोग कर रहे हैं, तू क्या कर रहा है?
Correct. So much cleaner market, more organized market.
And much superior quality of buildings.
So you're most bullish on Bangalore right now?
I'm most bullish on Bangalore and Bangalore township projects, because Bangalore is going through the same crisis that Mumbai is going through, wherein there is a complete absence of governance. So people will not take standalone buildings. They will want mini cities of their own. In Mumbai, we have that limitation.
Correct.
Because land is scarce. Chara zameen nahi hai, so
Correct.
you have to adjust in 5 acre, 3 acre, 8 acre. In Bangalore, you can do 30 acres, 50 acres.
Correct.
So I think Bangalore's model will be people buying in these 30 acre, 50 acre, 100 acre, 200 acre townships.
And more affordable.
And more affordable, yes. More affordable.
Standard living stays the same, better climate.
And you control, right? You're accountable.
Yeah.
You have the road.
Speaking of affordability, where do you think Mumbai real estate prices are headed towards? Are they going to go up? Are they going to go down? Or will they stay the same?
See, real estate in Mumbai, I think for a majority of players, it will go down. Okay. I think there are 3 brackets in this, or actually 4 brackets. Mumbai builders, if you look at it, they are split into 4 categories. One is a builder who assures delivery. Okay. One is the guy who assures you timely delivery. Third one is assures you quality delivery. Fourth one space is the quality delivery plus timely delivery. ये fourth category में ना कोई नहीं है. Mainstream level पे.
Correct.
They are boutique players and all of that. So in such a case, the guy who just assures delivery, no timely delivery, he will see his prices fall. Okay. We have at this point of time, Mayank, supply which is 7x of a normal year. Okay. And coming more. It's not that redevelopment is slowing down, it's increasing. Now, sales are rising 60%, 70%. So it's a very different equation. When we read headlines, we see sales are up 70%, 60%. In that, there is a problem. Because the sales data that we see, that includes free apartments given to the old apartment owners. It's counted as a sale. But it's practically not a sale.
It's not a sale, yeah.
So the number looks inflated. At the same time, with so much supply of 6x, 7x rising, builders who are doing cookie cutter projects, uniform projects, no speciality, standalone building, they'll get rogered. Okay. Now my sense is that about 60% of the players will see prices fall. We will see a price war between those 60-70% builders who have nothing more to offer except कि मैं building बना रहा हूँ. The other extreme will be, that 0.5%, the luxury and ultra luxury. I think we will see prices of ultra luxury become 2 lakh per square feet in Mumbai.
Yeah.
That sea phase has opened up.
I think it's already happening, in fact.
It's very close to that now.
Yeah.
We see 1.5, 1.4, 1.6,
Correct.
but 2 lakh, that psychological thing.
Correct.
That I think will happen in the next 3 years, according to me. In between that 60% wala, beyond the 60% developers, that 35-37% builders is where I think there'll be steady price movements. Thoda badhate rahenge. The key is you cannot stop construction today. You stop construction, or sales will stop.
Correct.
So one consequence of so much supply is that sales cycle has risen a lot. Earlier, if we were looking to close a deal in 2 months, that has become 5 months. Correct. Which means the builder is taking longer to get money. So I think Mumbai is set for a very exciting year. I think we will see discounts to the galore in the next 12 months. Of course, they will probably not call it discounts. They will call it, I'm introducing this payment plan, I'm giving you GST free.
In kind, basically.
हाँ, मतलब builders का वो problem भी है ना मुंबई में, most of them, कि they have to keep the narrative. Home prices never fall. So how do I show home prices never fall? No, sir, price is 2 crores only, but I am giving you without GST, without stamp duty, without floor rise, without this, so the price is 1.8. Technically, it's a discount of 10%, no?
Correct.
But outside दिखाने के लिए home prices never fall, they have to continue that circus. So I think that will continue, but below the radar with these sort of schemes, we will see price fall in this next 12 months.
So it's best to stay put and watch the.
Stay put, watch, do a mix of arranged plus love marriage. मतलब arrange करो, but don't see only
Love.
2 times. See it over a period of 6 months, 9 months. So try to fall in love.
Awesome, yeah. Thank you so much for taking out time from your schedule and doing this.
My
Means
pleasure.
a lot to us.
My pleasure, Mayank, and hopefully this initiative of yours picks up more and more.
Absolutely, we need more guests like you, and we're home.
All the best.
Awesome, Vishal. Thanks a bunch, man.
Thanks, man.